Once again, thank you guys for coming. Fitland is welcoming you all at this event. It's this very intellectually satisfying event, particularly for me because I've known Pratik for a long time. His dedication and his persistence has always been the key driver why I always went back for advices and a lot of things, not just the professional but also personal. And I've known him from school time, school friends. One thing I know about Pratik is as soon as he reached out to me and said, "Now I'm going to do something like this," and I did not have a second thought. You can say how much I can actually trust him because years of companionship. So guys, today I'm very proud to present you Pratik Nayak and Smell of Optimism, and I hope you guys enjoy this session. Pratik.
I'll do it. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone. So, as they say, if you live each day of your life as if it was your last day, someday you will most certainly be right. And this is that one remarkable thought which continuously travels in every entrepreneur's mind, consciously or subconsciously. And my today's talk is all about how entrepreneurs think at the back of their mind and what is their psychology and how do they see things as compared to non-entrepreneurs. So this is the topic which I'm going to cover today. So it will be about vision, values, leadership, and communication. First, let me introduce my first ring, which is the ring of a vision. So the date is 28th of August, 1963. The sky looks clear and the sun is right in the middle of the sky. It is a burning and severe summer. And 250,000 people were gathered in the middle of Washington, D.C. to hear Dr. Martin Luther King speak. He had a speech, and the speech was, "I have a dream." Now, the astonishing thing about this speech was that during that time, there was no website. So obviously, there was no invitation sent out to these people to come on that day. There was no advertisement made to these people to come on that day. And there was no publicity done whatsoever. Yet, on that day, at the right time, at the right place, 250,000 people were gathered to see and to hear this man speak. So that was something which I found quite fascinating. And as is my nature, I dug down deep inside in his life to see why he became such a great leader and why he had such an undivided attention from these thousands of people. And what I found out was rather the most human thing ever. What I found out was that he had a unique pattern in his leadership style. He had a unique pattern to see the world and to say the things which he believed. He never talked about what needed to be changed in America. He never talked about how things could be changed in America. But all he talked about was his belief and his vision. And those who believed in his belief were gathered on that day. As we all know, Dr. King was a civil rights activist, but he wasn't the only civil rights activist in America at the time. There were others. Then how come this man got such a great, remarkable influence on the audience? It's because of the way he communicated his message. He always talked about his vision, and his vision was that one day, little black kids and little white kids will hold their hands together and play on one playground together. That was his vision. And those who believed in his vision were gathered on that day to hear him speak. Now, let me ask you a question. This question actually came to my mind as soon as I could figure out this unique pattern in his activities and in his work. And this question was, how many of those 250,000 people were gathered on that day for Dr. King? Any idea? The answer is 0. there were 0 people who were there on that day to hear this man speak. They were there for themselves, right? Because Dr. King always said what he believed, and those who were sharing this belief were there for themselves, not for him, right? It was the United States which they wanted to live in, which they wanted to raise their kids in. And that is why they spread the message across to others, and then they made it their own vision and then spread it across to others. And that is how 250,000 people were there to hear this man speak. So this made me think that if a vision can do such a remarkable job, then why in this today's day and age we don't see such miracles happening around us, right? If you talk about today's world, there are 2.1 million businesses exist just in Australia itself, and the numbers are rising. Now think about the businesses that exist around the globe. Now there is nothing wrong in dreaming big. Make no mistake of it, right? There is nothing wrong in dreaming big and to start a business. In fact, this is the most satisfying moment for an entrepreneur, to see something right in front of his eyes grow, which was there in his mind until yesterday. For those who are self-employed here, can completely resonate with what I'm saying right now, right? They can see their vision come to life, and this is the most fulfilling thing for them. But what I have noticed lately is that as the business starts to grow, the gap between the vision which the business owner had on day one and the current business practices start to increase, right? And this is what I call a gap between these two parameters. And because of that gap, they are not able to focus on their business activities, right? And what happens is they get too much obsessed with the activities that they forget the actual reason why they had started the business in the first place, right? So they know exactly what they are selling today. They know exactly how they are selling today, but they have no idea or a very little idea as to why they are selling what they are selling, right? They have completely lost that thought from their mind. And because of them, because of this attitude, right now they cannot achieve what they thought they would achieve when they started off this business, right? Let me give you an example. So some visions which I see nowadays do not even make any sense at all to me. We all have seen and heard visions like, we want to be the best, we want to be the greatest, we want to be the most respectful organization in our industry, right? These kind of visions are amorphous. They do not inspire anyone to give their blood and sweat and tears, right? They don't. A vision should be something that, a vision should be a world that you want to live in, right? It should be something that can inspire your people to come to work every single morning and do the same thing over and over and over again without complaining, because they don't like their job, they would love their job, right? That is the kind of vision which an entrepreneur has to have. And that is what that will distinguish an entrepreneur from a non-entrepreneur, right? Let me give you an example of a good vision which I have seen. The vision of Apple at the time of Steve Jobs. At the time of Steve Jobs, the vision was this: we want to make some remarkable tools to contribute to the world so that we together can change the world, right? That was the vision back in the time of Steve Jobs. As you can see, in this vision, they never talked about the money part or the profit part. They never talked about the market share. They didn't even talk about their own products. All they talked about was their vision and their beliefs, right? So all they talked about was they wanted to contribute to the world by making the tools for the mind that can advance the humankind. That was their vision. And Steve Jobs managed to keep that vision in the company for all these years. And when you have a crystal clear sense of your vision, everything that you do simply becomes just a tangible proof of what you believe. That's it. So if you look at all the patterns of Apple, you will see that every product that Apple has introduced so far, that will reflect that vision which the founder, Steve Jobs, a 21-year-old boy, had formed sitting in his garage in California in 1973. That's all it is. Whether it be the success of Apple I, Apple II, Macintosh, Apple Mac, iTunes, iPhone, and now Apple Energy, right? These all products are just the tools to advance the vision. That's it. The vision is there, but these are the tools. Steve Jobs never believed in making money out of these tools because these tools were there to make him feel that he is making progress towards that vision which he had seen, right? He was never after any of the products. If it wasn't for Apple I, it could have been for any other industry. In fact, at the age of 30, he got fired from Apple. Can you believe the company that he started in the first place? He got fired by the management from his own company, but yet his vision did not change. He continued with his vision, and Apple had to take him back after a few years. Like I always say, a vision is the world that you want to live in. It's an internal fortitude of yours. It can evolve, but it can never be replaced. And the moment you think that it is replaced is the moment you should start thinking about your business, whether you should be in the business or not. We see it around us these days. When the new management comes in, when a new CEO is appointed, they change their vision. They change the values, right? This is not how it works, you see. A true vision can evolve, but it can never be replaced. It can never be changed. And when you have a crystal clear sense of your vision, the other things do not matter to you. Let me just give you an aside. Just imagine that you are standing in the middle of a square empty room. And I ask you to start walking towards the north corner of that room. What would you do? You would do as I say because I ask you to do that. So you would start walking towards the north corner of that room. Now, without telling you, I slip a chair in front of you. What would you do? You would go around that chair, right? That is the most remarkable thing about human being, that when you are crystal clear about what you are seeing, no matter what objection comes on your way, your unique brain will figure out the way to go around those obstacles, right? Because your vision is clear. Now reset. You are standing in the same empty room in the middle, and I ask you to choose any corner of that room and start walking. And you ask me, what corner? And I say, I don't know. You are smart, figure it out. So your brain chooses an arbitrary object, an arbitrary corner, and you start walking towards that corner. Now at the same time, while you're walking, again, I come on your way and I slip a chair in front of you. Now what would you do? You would come to a grinding halt. You wouldn't know what to do next. You would either wait for my next instruction, or you would just change the direction and start walking towards the other corner, because you are not sure as to where you are going. So when you are not sure about the destination, you become obsessed with the routes. But when you have a clear sense of the destination, your brain will figure out other routes to go to the destination. That destination is your vision. Just for a while, do this exercise. Just replace your business with a truck. Right. Now, if your business is a truck, then objects like money, for example, is just the fuel for the truck, which helps the truck go smoothly on a freeway without any hiccups. And I find it very fascinating because some businesses and some companies think that earning money is their vision, is their goal, which is quite fascinating, right? Yeah. So I hear a lot of things about different businesses which go bankrupt, and then I look at the history, and what I find out is that whenever they were asked this question as to what is the purpose of your business, most of them had said to maximize the value of our shareholders, right? This was the answer of those companies which are not there anymore, that our goal is to maximize the value of our shareholders, right? Which was the theory introduced by Milton Friedman in 1962. Quite surprising, isn't it? Even after 6 decades, our public companies are still following that theory. So basically, they disregard all the revolutions and evolutions which have happened in the world of business for all these years. They choose to disrespect all the progress in emerging technologies and the globalization, and they choose to stick to the same theory which were working 6 decades ago in today's day and age. That is hilarious to me, isn't it? And then they complain why we went bankrupt. That's hilarious to me. So those companies who believe that their vision is to earn money, they would soon find themselves in quagmire because they are not entirely sure about why they are in the business. The true purpose of the business is not to go after the money. The purpose of the business is to go after that vision, that ideal, that pie in the sky, which an owner had formed in the first place, and that should never change. As long as you are with your vision, you will go far. The moment your vision changes, and the moment these other objects replace your vision, that's the day you will start noticing a downward of your graph. And that is a reality that we all see around us. The other mistake which most of the businesses make in this day and age is that they confuse the metrics and the goals with their vision. Now make no mistake of it, metrics are necessary, but it is different to the vision, right? Metrics are just the milestones which make you realize that you are making progress. But this is not the vision. Progress towards what? Towards this ideal, which is your vision. So metrics are important, but you should never confuse these two. It is different to the vision, right? So that is quite fascinating that some businesses don't even know the game that they are in. The game of business is a very, very critical game if you don't have a clear, crystal sense of your vision, right? There is a high chance that you get obsessed by your metrics, by your other routes, if you don't have the clear sense of your direction, of your vision. So that was my first golden ring of business, which I call a vision ring. Now, there is one more thing which goes hand in hand with the vision, and that is your organization's values. So there is an inextricable link between the vision and the values. What are the values? So the values are the characteristics and the traits which you have found in your organization, right? These values define your attitude for dealing with people, right? These are your guiding principles for the management and for your people. To put simply, your values define what is right and what is wrong for your business, right? These are your values. Now, I find it amusing sometimes by looking at the values that some businesses would like to display on their walls. right? This is what happens nowadays. If you go to any business, you will see the values written in the bullet points, and those values are hanging either on walls or on a piece of paper on the wall, and the management can proudly put their hands on their hips and say, these are our values, right? But let me tell you, make no mistake of it, there is nothing wrong in putting down your values on a piece of paper and making them appear on your wall. But what is more important is to imbibe your values into your corporate culture, so that every employee of your business, from the receptionist to the CEO, can not only live, but they can breathe your value. And that is when you can create a strong corporate culture, when every person can literally feel the value of your business, right? Now, I also find it amusing the way some businesses would like to tag their values. The most common values which I have come across are honesty, reliability, integrity, teamwork, and the list goes on. These are the most common values which you all see around us, right? The only problem with this pattern, I believe, is that these are just the names, right? These are just the nouns. And the nouns are not inspiring and they are not actionable. This is the main and the basic difference between a noun and a verb. A noun is non-inspiring, whereas a verb is inspiring. A noun is not actionable, whereas a verb is actionable. And your values should be something which can be inspiring and which can be actionable. It should be something which can motivate your people to come to work every single day without complaining, and to give their blood and sweat and tears to make your vision come to life. Those should be your values, right? Let's try this. Let's replace all those examples of the values which I just gave to you. This time, let's try using the verbs and not the nouns. How about doing the right thing no matter what, instead of integrity? How about helping the person to the right of you and to the left of you, instead of teamwork? How about being truthful to your company and to the people that you serve without worrying about the circumstances or the result, instead of honesty? Is it different? Does it sound different? Right? So as you can see, just by replacing the way we articulate our values can change the perception, both for the people and for those who our people serve, right? And this is when you can see that all our employees are literally living and breathing our values. There is one company based in New York. This company is actually living and it is actually breathing the values which they claim that they have. Let me just talk about this company a bit, because this company has inspired me a lot. The vision and the values which this company has adopted has inspired me a lot. The company's name is Next Jump. It is based in New York. It is an e-commerce company which handles the loyalty programs for some big organizations like Intel and Dell. The three core values of this company is collaboration, trust, and active learning. And to prove that this company is living its values for all these years, the company has developed a program for its employees. Now, this program helps its employees to experiment in different areas without having to fear of the consequences, right? This is in agreement with the values like collaboration and active learning. This company has developed programs based on physical, mental, and spiritual training for their employees, right? This can show how the company is dedicated towards the values. And to prove its further obsession for its values, the CEO of this company, Charlie Kim, in 2012, he had announced a remarkable policy which has created the history in the United States, the policy of no firing. In other words, if you get hired by this company next jump, you will never be fired because of the performance issue. This is in agreement with their value of trust, whereby the employees can trust that no matter what happens, the management has got their back, right? This is what it means to feel the value. They should not be just the bullet points, but there should be something which you can imbibe in your corporate culture, and that is when you see remarkable results. One of the values which I find quite fascinating is that some people would like to put a value as efficiency and innovation, right? I just came across this value before a few days when I walked into one of the call centers of a big company, and they had written efficiency and innovation in one frame as their value, right? Which in reality is quite the opposite of each other, right? And efficiency refers to not making mistakes and getting the right result in the minimum efforts and minimum failures. That is what efficiency means, right? Whereas an innovation is a revolutionary change that can change the nature of the society and the industry, which requires failure as well. A failure is the most important and the most significant part of any innovation. Pick any innovation from any century and give me one innovation where the innovator got succeeded in the very first attempt. There is none. There is none. There is nothing efficient about innovation, right? In fact, Thomas Edison had once said that I haven't failed in 10,000 attempts. I in fact learned 10,000 ways which won't work with the light bulb, right? You can either put your value as efficiency and hope for the innovation, or you can put your value as innovation and hope that efficiency would come along the way. You cannot just put these two things together as your value. It will just confuse your people. They will not know where they are going. They will not understand whether they need to be efficient or they need to be innovative, right? In other words, our companies simply put anything and everything, whichever they want, sound good to the employees, right? This is not how it works. Your values are your values, and they should come with the business owners, with the founders, and that is how the values are generated, right? This question comes across to me all the time, that how do we establish our values? How can we generate our values? There are two ways the values can be generated. One is the business founders can bring the values with them when they start a business, just like the vision. And the second instance is that the values can be brought into the business along the way. So when your business is operating at its natural best, when all cylinders are firing, and when all employees are ready to give their blood and sweat and tears, then within your corporate culture, you will see some unique patterns start to emerge. And these unique patterns are your values. These are your values. And you will need to stick to your values if you want to see the progress in your business. Let me give you a small little example of a new business which I came across. And this is the business which my friend here, Naman, is running, Fitland. This is where we are right now. Now, their values are very much clear. They want to design a place where people can come and go out feeling healthy, not only physically, but mentally as well. And he has held his people and himself accountable for these values, for these guiding principles. So all the marketing messages which go out from Fitland, all the messages simply talk about how can they be more inspirational, how can they be more helpful to its people so that they can feel healthy, not from externally, but from internally as well. This is what it means to live and to breathe your corporate values, right? Which is very rare these days. It is very rare. And this is the job of a leader, to make sure that the vision and the values are aligned with each other, because only then a strong corporate culture can be born. Now that begs the question as to who is called a leader. So that is my third golden ring of leadership. So the leadership, what is a leadership, right? We all have different ideas about leadership, right? We all have heard different definition of leadership and different tags attached to a leadership. Some people would call that leader was a great leader. Some people would call that leader was not so good leader. Some would say this leader is a charismatic leader, and some would say this leader is an inspiring leader, right? To me, the definition of leadership is very simple. You can either be a leader or you cannot be a leader. That's it. You cannot distinguish within leadership. But the reason why we do have this misconceived notion about leadership is because we do not have a common definition of leadership around us. We cannot picture what a leader looks like, right? Let me tell you what a leadership is. A leadership is not a rank. It is not an authority. It is simply something that comes from within, right? If you are dedicated towards taking care of the person sitting next to you, then you are a leader, right? It has got nothing to do with the rank, and it has got nothing to do with the authority. Many people confuse leadership with management, but there is a difference between the two. A manager is someone who manages the people, whereas a leader is someone who leads the people. A manager is someone who feels that he is in charge of his people, whereas a leader always feels that he is in responsibility for those who are in his charge. That's the difference between a manager and a leader. But we confuse the two because most of the books that we normally read, those books say these are the 5 characteristics of leadership. These are the secrets of leadership. But in reality, many of them just talk about the different styles of management, not leadership, right? Now, when it comes to leadership, one example that comes to my mind is something that I came across myself a few years back when I was working in a call center, right? Now, there was a guy who we used to call our team leader, and let me tell you about this guy. This guy was a little bit harsh when it comes to delivering the performance. This guy was a little bit strict when it comes to managing the surroundings and the environment of the work culture. He had in fact come up with this different procedure whereby if you are getting late even by 1 minute, you would have to call this guy and let him know that you are running late, right? But one thing which I had observed in his pattern is that every time when someone calls him that he or she would be running late for the meeting or for the work, the first thing that he would say is that do not do anything stupid to reach here in a hurry. Those are the words which he says. So basically what he's trying to say is that he is trying to show the empathy towards that person, right? Because he doesn't know what are the circumstances of that other person. He could be running late for the work because he had some accident in his work, on his way. He could be running late because his kid was sick in the morning and still he chose to come to work. Or he's just lazy to wake up in the morning and come to work. But the thing is that he doesn't know. So the practice of empathy says that when you do not know about the circumstances of someone else, you should give him the benefit of doubt. And this empathy is the most important trait of leadership. right? Because when you can show the empathy for your people, you basically create an environment of trust. Your people will be able to share more with you, right? Because they do not fear you. They do not fear the consequences, right? There is one more attribute of leadership, which I find quite interesting, and this attribute is the courage, right? The courage is something which is quite important for any leader, and it is very hard to establish, right? A courage to do the right thing no matter what. The courage to take care of his people no matter what. The courage to put the interest of his people before his own interest no matter what. Sometimes you can get your head chopped because you chose to take care of the people who are your responsibility, but that is the cost of leadership, isn't it? That is the cost of leadership. The cost of leadership is self-interest, whereby you put others' interest ahead of your own interest and you decide to take care of them. It is like parenting, right? It is like parenting. Everyone sitting here has the capacity to become a parent. It doesn't mean that everybody has to be a parent, and it does not mean that everybody should be a parent. Leadership is exactly the same. Every one of us has the capacity to be a leader. It doesn't mean that you have to be a leader, and it does not mean that you should be a leader. But once you decide to be a leader, you have to take all the accountabilities that come with the leadership, right? You can enjoy all the perks, you can enjoy all the benefits of being a leader, but when the push comes to shove, at that time you have to take the charge. You have to go first to face the danger. That is what I believe a true leader is, right? And a true leader is someone who can also clearly communicate his vision and his values to others, right? And that takes me to my last and final golden ring, which is the golden ring of communication. So as I said before, there is an inextricable link between a leadership and the communication. If you can communicate well, you are a leader. And those who lead can clearly communicate themselves. These are quite linked. You see, you cannot detach these two attributes, right? Give me the name of one leader who has been unable to communicate properly to his employees or to his people. And show me one clearly communicator who others do not follow, right? The leadership is all about the followers, where people can choose and raise their hands voluntarily to follow you, to go in the direction which you have set out for them to go, right? Not by force, but by their own free will. And that can only happen if you have the ability to communicate your ideas and your vision, right? That is the benefit of communication, and that is something which every leader needs to have, the communication thing. Now, when it comes to communicating the ideas and the beliefs, we do have a misconceived notion of communication. We all have been told for all these years that be a good listener, right? Be a good listener. Now, I find it half advice. This is not a full advice, right? Let me give you an example of this. The reason why I find it half of the advice. Nelson Mandela, a universally regarded as a great leader. Now, Nelson Mandela's father was a tribal chief, right? Now, one day, Mandela was asked a question by the reporter that how come you became such a great leader which the whole nation follows? What is it in you that you think made you a great leader, right? And his reply was that when he was a kid, he used to go to these tribal meetings with his father, and he used to notice two things. Number one, those gentlemen in the meeting, they used to sit in a circle. And number two, his father was always the last one to speak. Although his father was the chief, he chose to be the last one to speak. And then Mandela continued, explaining the logic behind it. So he said that two things happen when you speak last. Number one, you give an opportunity and a feeling to everyone sitting around you that they have been heard. Right? It is the most wonderful feeling, isn't it? When somebody takes some time out to listen to our problems, to listen to our issues, just to hear us. Right? And the second thing which happens is you get an opportunity to listen to everybody else before you render your own opinion to someone. Right? These two things happen when you practice being the last one to speak. It sounds easy, it is not. Practice being the last one to speak and you will see the result. You will see a remarkable result. Right? But this is something which most of our CEOs and most of our leaders have forgotten. Let me give an example. Whenever we have a team meeting, an uncalled team meeting, right? The most common reason for this sort of team meetings is either we have faced an issue which we never thought we would, or some unexpected thing has happened in the business which can affect the whole management. Now, whenever we do have this sort of situation, what tends to happen is the manager would call out for a meeting. We all are gathered in the meeting and then he would come up with the problem. He would rush into the room and he would say, here is the problem, here are the options, and this is the best option according to me. But I want to hear your opinions. It is too late. It is too late for that. Right? A great leader would go in the room and says, here is the problem. I want to hear your opinion before I can tell you what I think. This is when you get to hear the different standpoint of your employees, and this is when you get to hear what is in their mind, from where they are coming, right? Practice being the last one to speak and you will see a remarkable change in the way you're operating your business. And like I said before, it is a great feeling when some people hear you. And I can say that today because I'm feeling great that you all are hearing me. So thank you so much for hearing what I'm thinking, and thank you so much for having me stay here and explain all the 4 golden rings of the business which are very close to me. Thank you.